Right, so today we're going to take a look at the Quality Street advert, which is 1956 and is also one of the set products for your Component 1 exam. And we're going to have a look at breaking it down and getting some key annotations for this particular piece. Now, all of these annotations are based on what I've found within the advert itself, but also taking on board the things that are mentioned in the fact sheet, which you can find on the Educast website, and I'll link that down below for you guys. So let's get started. To begin with then, we have the characters within the advert who are designed to represent this target primary demographic. So that's going to be young men, young women, 20 to 30 who are perhaps B2C1 on the Acorn or ABC1 system. Now they're going to fit into the aspirers category for the 4Cs theory because the contemporary demographic at the time were people who were fairly low wages but who wanted to aspire to be like people who could afford box chocolates being very expensive at the time. Now if we're looking at a modern demographic viewing this, so people who buy Quality Street today, they're probably resigned because they've got into the habit of picking up the Quality Street chocolates every year, normally at Christmas. We've got historical context through Quality Street. This is implied through the lengthened name, not only through the fact that we've got Quality Street as a name, but also through Macintosh as well, which is sort of very traditional to give that sort of family name to it. We've got high key lighting and colour used throughout. Now we can comment on the lighting even though this is an illustration because it's very, very bright. The colour signifies positivity. It's adding interest to us because these bright colours are obviously going to draw our attention to the page. The gold frame is also important because it's positioned in a way that could symbolise a halo if we look at the man and the two women in the centre of the frame. We've also got this man being represented as almost godlike because he's the one who's in control. We've got a portrait in the background. They've got slightly more muted colours, but the darker colours and the dress codes that the two brand mascots, the dress codes that the two brand mascots have indicate the Regency period, so that suggested a sort of quality and indulgence that the demographic at the time just didn't have following the Second World War. Now we also need to talk about the layout because it's really important to note that the three chocolates that we've got in the bottom left hand corner overlap the image that we've got in the sort of square frame. Now this gives again a further focal point. It's something quite interesting for us to look at. It might be something that indicates that these three particular chocolates are most important, although when we have a look at the campaign as a whole, or if you've had a look at that video already, you'll know that other adverts within the sort of 1950s period picked out different sweets to feature on their advertisements. The connotation that we've got from the two women and the man could be considered sexual or seductive initially, or I think the primary meaning that you're meant to get from this advert is that by having Quality Street you are going to be as irresistible as the man because this is an irresistible product. But an alternative meaning could be that the two women are using their femininity in order to trick the man so that they can get a sweet themselves. Now we've spoken a little bit about the portrait, but these two characters create enigma. We wondered what they're looking at. We recognise them as brand identity, or we would if we were viewing this in the 1950s, because Miss Sweetly and Major Quality appear throughout the campaign. We've also got the product here as well, so we've got an element of product placement. It's overflowing, so this could symbolise that it's good value for money. It could be a sexual metaphor or a sexual representation because the man has the tin positioned over his crotch, and also it's sort of overflowing. And we've also got the fact that this is a sort of post-war period, so consumerism is on the rise. We've got people trying to kickstart the economy again, and so this could be a way of showing this sort of decadent luxury product through the fact that there's so many chocolates the tin can't contain them. Now the typography is really important for us to be aware of here. We've got mixed typography. So initially we've got alliteration through delicious dilemma, delightfully different. This makes the slogan more memorable, but we've got that in a serif font to show sophistication, whereas the brand logo is in more cursive sans serif font to connote this sort of informality. We've also got the rule of thirds being used here. So the product, which is a tin of sweets, is in the centre of the frame. So that's the thing that's most important. It's where our eyes are drawn to first. And we've got both the male and female characters stereotyped. So on the one hand, the man, as we've said, the man has to choose between these two women, and that links to props theory because it presents him as the protagonist and the main character, and also the fact that these two women are perhaps the prize for him, whereas the women are more focused on sweets, so again gender stereotyping there, and they could be considered, I suppose, in a way their own hero, with the sweets being the prize that they get if we're looking at this in terms of props characters. Now the female characters provide some intertextuality for us, and I think you could class this as intertextuality even though it's an intertextual reference to the same product, in that the women are dressed in the same style and the same coloured clothing as the sweets we've got in the bottom left hand corner of the page. So the lady on the left with the black hair is obviously dressed to represent the chocolate strawberry, whereas the lady on the right with the blonde hair is designed to represent the Harrogate toffee, and almost looks like the silhouette that we can see in gold on that sweet itself. Now the poster's got a very geometric layout, so although we've commented on rule of thirds already, we can also comment on the fact that this is designed in a sort of triangle shape, and you can sort of see that where the purple arrow just here and the blue arrow just here are, because if we continue that trend going upwards, makes a nice little triangle here, and that's very traditional for the time. So again, it's something that dates the advert itself. And finally, we've got white space. Now that's less common today. We don't tend to have a lot of white space in adverts. Every inch of that page normally is covered in some sort of colour, logo or design, but it adds that space for the product description, which is crucial for those 1950s adverts. So if we're breaking this down into the key concepts for you then, and this is useful for you guys to do as well, so if you're using this video to supplement your own annotations, consider breaking it down into those key concepts, because remember, Quality Street could come up under any one of these headings. In terms of language, obviously we've got very typical language for the period, very clear sections, very clear page layout, which helps us to gain that information. And again, it's put into this 1950s period given the fact we've got these detailed descriptions of the products. The preferred message that we're getting is that the product is so enticing, it's making us attractive to the opposite sex, but we could subvert that by suggesting that the women are using the men to gain a chocolate because those chocolates are so irresistible. Now in terms of our industry, it's set during the 1950s, so part of a much larger campaign featuring the same brand image, same brand identity, and have a look at the campaign video. I'll put a little info card in the top if I can, and I'll certainly pop it in the description below, because that will show you those other images from the campaign. And also the chocolates are unusual because compared to the rest of the market, it's only sort of this one product that incorporates chocolate and toffee together, and the fact that the packaging is adapted so that instead of the chocolates being divided in a box and therefore having a short shelf life, they've got their own individual wrappers, meaning they're portable and you can, keep them for later. In terms of our audience, our primary demographic, C 20 to 40, C2 to E, strugglers. But also, as we've mentioned within the annotations themselves, there are going to be a large part of that audience who are aspirers. And we've also got a secondary demographic of 30 to 50, aspirers, succeeders, very similar because they're both wanting to sort of achieve, and also those who are resigned if we're thinking of this as a modern audience. Now the male protagonist in terms of our representation is suave, he's upper class, we can tell this because he's wealthy, he's wearing a pinstripe suit, so it wouldn't have been available to all of the demographic at the time. The connotations for him are that the chocolates are for wealthy people, and because he's holding them he also has to be wealthy, and there's also this idea that chocolates were traditionally given to somebody who you were courting or dating at the time, and so this links to this idea that perhaps he's trying to court one of these young women. The women are stereotypically attractive, but they also represent the packaging as we've seen previously. And the mascots in the frame, they're interested in the product, but they seem less formal given the way that they're standing, and that contrasts with their Regency style clothing and the nostalgia that they create. whistle stop tour of those annotations today, and I know I was speaking insanely fast, so if you didn't catch any of that, please go back through the video, pause it, add those comments and those annotations to your own work, use it to supplement your own ideas, and then have a look at these key terms that we've got here at the end of the video. You can make note cards from these, you can make sure that they're added into your work, you can go through and try and highlight them within your own work, and obviously if there's anything that you don't understand, make sure you're looking it up. Or if you really want to know what something means and you can't find it online, you can pop a question in the comments section down below or get in touch with me through Twitter at media_revision. If you haven't yet, please subscribe, and I will see you guys later for another video.